Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guests are from an upcoming Riverside Theatre production. Director of Riverside, Adam Knight, is with us. Adam, welcome back. Good to see you.
It's great to see you.
And director of Everybody, visiting from New York, Jacob Titus. Jacob, welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, before we start talking specifically about Everybody, which is kind of the conclusion of the current season, tell me how the summer's been going, because it's always big with the Shakespeare Festival and...
Summer's been great. We closed 12th night to a totally packed house with people sitting in the lawn, and that was just a wonderful way to kind of enter this first full summer that we've done. This is actually the first time we've done a second summer show since 2019, since pre-pandemic. So this is our first 8-play season in quite a while, and it's just so fun to be back full steam.
And I know you and Jacob go way back to your New York days.
We do. It was our salad days together. Jacob and I came up at Signature Theater and the O'Neill Theater Center together, and we're part of kind of the New York theater scene together for years. And Jacob is still a very vibrant part of that. I just saw a play that Jake directed in the spring called War Dreamer that was fantastic.
And Jacob, this is a new play, but it has some unique twists. So before we spoil that part, can you give me just a little bit of the capsule summary?
So it's based on Everyman, the morality play from the 1400s, 15th century. And Branden Jacobs-Jenkins really follows the original very closely. He updated a lot of the language, but that's about it, other than a few tweaks here and there with some of the character names, and then the lottery that you were alluding to.
It's before we rolled tape, Adam said it's about death, but it's a funny play.
Yes, yeah. Well, and it kicks off that way too, because we do a lottery in front of the audience, where 5 of the cast members who play the bulk of the parts all find out right there in front of the audience what parts they're playing that night. And so in a very literal sense, you could see the play 11 times and never once repeat the show that you've seen.
And I'll just say the lottery is, in addition to being this amazing theatrical event every show, it also, I think, is meant to symbolize the randomness of life and death for everybody, and how those things are things that we don't prepare for. And so we're actually watching the actors kind of live that moment of discovery every night.
So how does that work then? Did everybody learn every part? Is a lot of it improvised? How does that work?
We give all the actors a framework, so they all know the basic physical phrasing. But for the most part, we've tried to keep it as loose as we can. They all say the exact same lines. The script does not change whatsoever. And it's amazing how different the script sounds and reads just hearing from the 5 different actors. Because Adam did an amazing job casting this, because they're all incredibly unique while at the same time saying the exact same words. And so like a 22-year-old, dealing with death, it means something totally different to a 46-year-old dealing with death. Because I've had a lot more death in my life than they have. And so, your relationship to death and its, approach is totally different. It's been a joy.
So plays about death, based on work from the 1400s, but updated. Of course, death is a universe. Death hasn't changed since the 1400s. But so the characters, they change, the actors change, but tell me about the plot structure, the story. Does the story play out in a fairly linear fashion, or?
For the most part, yeah. It's so God is, talking to himself and saying, everybody's forgotten about me. So he calls upon death and says, Death, come bring everybody to me and let them present their life to me. Let them do an accounting, which is just like the original. And so everyone freaks out. Like, what the hell do I do? I'm dying. And so they try and just bring any and everything they can with them. They go to friendship, they go to family, they go to stuff, worldly goods, like all these things that we hang on to in our lives that we are clinging to because we're all terrified of death. And so this is just sort of taking away a lot of that fear, but in a playful, joyful way.
It is an allegory. There's an actor is playing friendship, an actor is playing kinship or cousin or stuff. And I think the brilliance of Branden Jacobs-Jenkins, the playwright, and this was a Pulitzer finalist in 2018, I should mention, is that it's almost like we take this found text that maybe meant something slightly different to medieval audiences and now discovering what it means to us now and how it's connecting us to this story that's quite old, but it's such a key part of Western, the fabric of our psyche. And this idea of how we live our life and how that affects the final part of our journey. And it's incredibly funny, but also incredibly moving because it conjures these things that I think are deeply embedded in so many of our minds.
And moving back inside for this one in the air-conditioned comfort of the beautiful space, which
Yes.
I still think of as the new space.
Yeah, and the air-conditioned comfort and the smoke-free comfort because we've been dealing with that, of course, too. But yeah, it's fun to be back in the space, and this play, I think, really showcases all four walls of the space in real unique ways. This play makes use of light and sound way more than I think any show we've done so far. We've got an amazing team of designers that Jacob's been working with. And it's a really fluid storytelling that I think is going to be very fresh for our audiences, especially coming out of Shakespeare.
Jacob, so as a director, so first off, you have found yourself directing everybody in every part. So instead of directing 5 people, you're really directing 25,
Right.
pretty much.
Yes.
But what other approaches, challenges, joys did you find once you started digging into this?
Well, I with this play it was interesting because one, I probably would never get to do this in New York because I doubt I would ever be able to get the rights to it. But also in the time of my life right now, and for everyone, like coming out of the pandemic, this just made perfect sense. So when Adam asked me about it, everyone's dealing with the loss of someone they care about. And so this play has been very cathartic in that way for me. But also, it's been such a joy working with these amazing designers and this amazing cast. And they just say yes, and they jump in, and they could easily be seen in New York and blend right in. Like, I could easily work with all these people. It's been an amazing collection of talent that Adam has put together for this show. I've been greatly impressed by it.
Well, we grow good theater here.
We do, and it's fun to bring in an outside artist like Jacob, who's used to the New York scene, and to showcase that, and to not only expose our artists to a professional director working in the arena that is New York City, but also the opposite, introduce a New York City artist or artists from major markets to the great things that are happening here in the corridor.
The show opens on July 21st, and I know you've got some talkbacks. Scheduled.
So the first Sunday after the matinee, so the matinee is at 2:00 on Sunday. The talkback will be around 3:30, 3:35. There'll be a talkback with Jacob and the cast and team. And the show runs through August 6th, so 3 weeks at our space at 119 East College Street.
I love talkbacks because there is nothing more, after I see a play, that's when I want to talk about it the most.
Especially a play like this.
Especially something like this, yeah.
Well, and particularly with this subject matter, Branden Jacobs-Jenkins is so gentle with the subject matter. And it's an easy way to bring in an audience so that we can experience it, but without having to go through the grueling task of dealing with grief and death. So we can do it in a playful way, and we can experience it vicariously through these cast members as they're going through the hard stuff. Mm-hmm. And then afterwards, hopefully we'll talk about it. And I would love for every night to end with conversations in the lobby afterwards. Like, I'm really hoping that this stimulates conversations, not just at the talkbacks, but throughout their lives. Mm-hmm.
Do you have actors who it seems like they're really digging into one particular, they have a favorite part?
Well, I think right now all of them are a little bit terrified about just trying to get all 5 parts. But that being said, like, like Mackenzie somehow keeps getting everybody in the rehearsals first, but like we're still trying to find balance and get other people to do it. Or Carrie keeps getting B, and and Virginia keeps getting A. So it's A, B, C, D, and then everybody. E for everybody.
So it's it's supposed to be random, but it seems like there might be a higher power working to do it a certain way.
Yeah,
maybe a little thumb on the scale.
Yeah.
But randomness also repeats itself sometimes,
Right.
and so that's part of the wonderful frustration of the play is that the creators and the actors don't know what they're going to be working on each night, and so there is a kind of flying by the seat of your pants energy that's infectious.
Right. When I talk to my friends about it, they're always like, okay, so they know who's going to do it the night before. And I'm like, no. They find out the night of in front of the audience. Like when they're finding out, everyone's finding out.
And then the actor doesn't even get to leave the stage.
Right.
All of a sudden, the person who's everybody is all of a sudden there, and they're going to have the majority of the lines for the rest of the play. And then you watch them check in with themselves and then go.
Right.
The play is Everybody, and it opens July 21st and runs through August 6th.
Right.
At Riverside Theatre in the beautiful space on the Ped Mall. If people want tickets, they can visit your website, Adam, which is
www.riversidetheatre.org, or call the box office.
And Jacob, now that we've gotten to know you and you're one of us, if people want to connect with you on social media or anything like that, or your own website, how do they do that?
I do have my own website, Jacob Titus Theatre.com, director.com. I should know this, but just Google Jacob Titus Director. It'll come up.
Well, sounds challenging and delightful and fun and everything, and hope the run goes well.
Awesome.
Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can hear The Culture Crawl live on the radio many weekdays at 10:30, or download the podcast. Watch or listen on your own schedule at kcck.org/culture or your favorite podcast player. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.